Agriculture, there's about 85% of what happens on my farm that is completely out of my control.
Yeah.
So I have to do the very best I can at managing that 15% of inputs and costs and labor and marketing and signing the best contract and doing the best job that I can, and leave the other 85% up to the good Lord. And that's all we can do, whether it's weather or disease or a hailstorm or a pandemic or administration. And we just weather the storm.
It's kind of a wait and see game. I mean, I think the main thing is not to overreact and get too nervous. I mean, stay the course. That's what's helped us, all of these generations of farmers stay in the course and doing what we do best and being efficient, not spending money when we don't need to spend money,
right,
and just keeping our, ears open and eyes open and being able to pivot when we can.
That's a clip from a report that Alex Wagner filed for her series called Trumpland, where she talks to MAGA supporters. And in this one, she went to meet with North Carolina farmers in the middle of Trump's tariff crisis and his trade war with China. Hi, my name is Suri Crowe and you're watching the MeidasTouch Network. All right, let's get into it. Well, that report went viral and I will show you what I thought was the most interesting part, but here's more from her report.
Genuinely profound insight, and also explains a lot of why a lot of folks are like,
yes,
we're just going to sort of see where it all goes.
I think, it was interesting being in Clayton, North Carolina yesterday as, Wall Street's melting down. The financial world is flipping out. Investors are calling Trump. People can't get through. It's a different reality in red state America. All the people that I talked to at that table had voted for Trump at least once, if not multiple times. And in part because of that, but I think largely because of the attitude you have to take when you are a farmer. You are more sanguine. You are more accepting of external chaos. But I kept saying, this isn't hurricanes. This isn't weather. This isn't an act of God. This is Donald Trump making very clear decisions that put you in financial peril. And it's not just that they sell their, goods to China. It's that they need farm equipment. They need lots of supplies that are manufactured in China. And they've already spent that money, Chris. The way it goes with the commodities trade is you've already put the money in the ground for the seed, the fertilizer, the equipment, the labor. They just got to hope come harvest time that they can sell it at a decent price and don't lose money. And Trump has thrown all of that up in the air, right? But what's so interesting, I think, is the empathy they feel with him insofar as the project of correcting a trade imbalance that they see has been decades in the making. The kinship they feel with him in his political project to break things and upend the status quo, and the fundamental and unspoken belief that if it all does go to hell in a handbag, as it did in 2018, Donald Trump will make sure they are made whole. So I'm speaking of the bailouts that were offered, the money, the assistance that was granted to farmers in the last Trump trade war with China in 2018. And I asked them about that and whether that was something they expected and what they thought of other people who might not be so keen on that idea. This is that conversation. The assistance that the president put in place after the last tariff increase basically erased the financial gains from that tariff increase, which I think left a lot of people scratching their heads like, well, why are we doing this to begin with? Do you feel the same way?
I feel like in the last trade war, we kind of went through the short-term pain, and I'm wondering where the gain was, maybe. We kind of came out of it in a little bit of turmoil.
I think some people have not forgotten that, and they're saying, well, you know what? The people that voted to put this president in office, this is your guy. And if this is your guy, you got to roll with the policies he enacts. And why should the rest of the country that didn't vote for him be bailing out farmers?
That's right. And they're also, those same people oftentimes demand that farmers address climate change and farmers adapt different technologies. And we have responded in spades with soil health initiatives, cover crops, using less inputs to produce more on less land with less water and higher labor costs. But those same people that make those demands are not willing to pay the cost for the American products in the store. They will buy the cheaper imported products that have much lower, their daily wage rate are less than what we have to pay an hour for our H-2A workers that are coming in. And the disparity when you're having somebody tell you how to do what you do best for a living and then not be willing to pay for the demands that they're making is laughable. We're fighting with one hand tied behind our backs because we're having to meet the regulations that are imposed to produce the quality food and address all of these other social issues we may or may not be responsible for. But at the same time, we're not seeing a return in the marketplace because American products are too expensive. And that's the tragedy of the American farmer is we produce the best and we meet the demands and we step up to the plate. But the consumer, when they go to the store, they're looking for the best deal and the best value.
Wow, there's just so much to unpack from that whole excerpt. Okay, so let's start with the bailouts from 2018. That was the last time that Trump got into a trade war pissing match with China. His administration charged us, the U.S. taxpayers, $28 billion to bail out the failing farm industry. That was his fault. That's more than we spend on the U.S. State Department, more than we spend on NASA, more than we spent on children's health insurance that year, more than we spent on the EPA. And not surprising with a Trump Republican administration, EPA, children's health care, things they don't give a shit about, more than we spent on the National Science Foundation. Again, not surprising with Republicans in charge, more than we spend on the USDA that inspects our food chain, makes sure that our food sources are safe coming off those farms. And more than we spent on the national forest, $28 billion to bail out the farm industry that Trump crashed. We spent 0.4 on the National Forest Service. But no matter what, farmers as a whole do vote Republican. We know this. It's a cultural thing with them. You're a farmer, you vote red. 78% of farming counties voted for Trump in 2024. That was more than they did in 2020, even though he just bombed the farming industry the last time he was in office. But he has cut back on USAID, which buys $2 billion a year in farm crops from farmers. He also backs big agriculture, big ag, which owns the lion's share of the U.S. grocery markets. Again, not helpful to farmers. Yet they are generally ride or die Trumpers. And if it all goes wrong again, well, they expect he'll just bail them out. So here's where I thought things really got interesting, because the comment section under this video on YouTube was where things got lit. And I think really shows how divided we are as a country. But really, most of the comments were not in favor of these North Carolinian MAGA farmers at all. Man, viewers felt a way, and they were chiming in from all over the world. All right. So here, starting with this one, he told y'all that he was going to do this. He said to your faces, I don't care about you. I only want your vote. And you cheered. Even people who call out his lies knew he meant that. This person wrote, this is what happens when your hatred of others and your refusal to admit that you were wrong outweighs everything else. 100%. They refused to say I was wrong. Their ego led them astray. No surprise. This viewer said, the mental gymnastics these people go through to support this man is truly Olympic quality stuff. And, this person writes, as a farmer, a Norwegian farmer, I'm ashamed to have colleagues overseas this dumb. Ouch. In my recent experience, he is incorrect. And this guy is referring to the North Carolinian farmer. He is incorrect when he says American farmers produce the best quality. Stores here in Canada have switched to Mexican produce since Trump started his market manipulation. Mexican product is better. I hope they don't switch back. U.S. farmers voted out the people that are helping them transition to sustainable farming practices, opening new markets for their products. This was never about farming. They voted for hate and got it back in spades. And I will say that the Biden administration was moving towards sustainable farming practices. They were doing so much more for farmers in terms of helping them go towards green farming, better soil, topsoil production, so many things that would make our American produce and farming better. And yet farmers voted in spades for Trump. And again, I would have to agree with that commenter that how much did it really have to do with farming practices? I don't know. I think it's a cultural thing. I'm Canadian. After all of Trump's insults and the looming threat to our sovereignty, no Canadian I know will purchase American food. We shop in grocery stores that label items by country. We are now importing goods from South America. The only product I've purchased that was American has been a couple of cauliflowers, and I'm hoping those can be sourced elsewhere as well. I doubt we will ever go back to buying American. Also voted to deport their workers. LOL. Yeah. farmers as a whole, voting Republican, voted with an anti-migrant workforce. They voted to literally deport their own workforce work sources. So again, how is that helping them? It's not. Reality is the big ag industry, Tyson, Purdue, et cetera, in America is siphoning off all the profits. These farmers often get 5 cents off of every dollar you spend in stores, while big ag takes 30 cents. The store takes 5 to 20 cents, and numerous other players down the line, packaging, et cetera, takes the rest. Farmers need to see better profit on the dollar, at the very least, 15 to 25 cents to make things whole. But big ag often has them locked into predatory contracts. When you don't understand that the system is rigged against you, you blame everyone else. They need to regulate big ag just as they need to regulate big pharma, big insurance, et cetera. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Like, big ag is what dominates the U.S. grocery store chains. And who's in bed with big ag and big pharma and big corporations? Donald Trump. Those are his besties, hey? His billionaire besties. How is that helping farmers? It's not. What's also not mentioned is the main reason consumers are buying the cheapest food rather than the best, healthiest is because they are not being paid a living wage. Corporations that make billions in profits and pay their execs tens of millions a year claim they can't afford to pay the hourly worker enough money to provide them with a decent standard of living. So don't blame someone trying to survive on less than $40,000 a year for not buying what is best. They don't have that luxury. Again, true. We have a millionaire and billionaire class that is not paying worker bees like me and you enough to live on. So yeah, when we go to the store, we're not going to be paying for the highest price products because we aren't getting paid enough, right? So another commenter writes, first term, farm fails increased 25%. They deserve what they voted for. It's amazing how this farmer sees the demands that other people make with regards to climate change and renewables as demands from other people, when climate change will hit farmers, and already does, harder than anyone. They should be demanding it from themselves, not feel like it's being forced upon them by others. Yeah. Who gets hit the hardest by climate change? Well, all of us do, quite frankly, but farmers with flooding and drought and hurricanes and all of the things when you have these farmers are acting like it's an inconvenience. Like, dude. And this person writes, no, the logic doesn't hold. If you vote for a candidate whose trade policies create the problem twice, you don't then turn around and ask the rest of us to cover the damage. Those bailouts aren't free. They're tax dollars, my tax dollars. You made your pick. If you're still backing the guy whose strategy damaged your market, then go ask him to personally reimburse your losses, not the American people. That's accountability. Well, we know Trump doesn't pay for anything ever. This person writes, really had a laugh at the farmers that think that they produce the best quality and have the strictest regulations. They don't know Europe exists. I would wholeheartedly agree. If you've ever been outside of the country, if you've been to Europe or the Caribbean, then you can taste the difference. Our food supply here in America, by and large, is not good. Our soil quality is terrible. It's deplete of nutrients because of the insane amount of pesticides that we've sprayed all over America, pesticides that are banned in Europe. You literally can't use things like glyphosate and other pesticides that we still allow here, that Republicans are gunning for. Once again, they're in with big chemical, companies. They don't use that shit over in Europe, and you can taste the difference. So that kills our soil as well as us as people, causes cancer and all kinds of diseases. And you can literally taste the difference when you go to Europe. The food, everything, bread, pasta, the produce, the meat, our food quality here is just not on par. It really isn't. So I had to crack up when he was like, our food's the best. Not really. We'll end with this one. Canadians have a different expression for American farmers, welfare recipients. Ouch. I thought that was wild because these people are voting against SNAP recipients. They're voting against Social Security, which we've all paid into our whole lives. They're voting against people who are dependent on Medicaid, but they expect $28 billion in farming bailouts from we, the taxpayers. So it is really quite ironic, is it not? And yet Canadians look at them as the biggest welfare recipients. Also, the billionaire class, they get the most amount of welfare in America. But I just thought I would share some of those comments. That was just a smattering. There were thousands and thousands. Like I said, this video, it really went viral. Majority, like the vast majority, were absolutely dead set against more bailouts for American farmers because of the fact that they are supporting Trump. They're like, why should we bail you out again? You are supporting the guy who not only caused this tariff disaster last time and then cost us, the US taxpayers, to bail you out, but is doing it again. I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below this video. Yeah, interesting once again, the old FAFO thing, but thanks for watching. I'll see you back here soon. Peace.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.